It's fair to say there's been an explosion of interest in video advertising. It is a medium that makes sense to big brand advertisers. Sight, sound, and motion is something that they understand. You know, they've been buying television for years and years and years. And video, I think, feels very analogous to them in a lot of ways. Not to mention that that is where consumers are spending their time, right? So the video advertising market has just exploded. As we've seen in the display market, this concept of programmatic buying in real time using technology, is very interesting. And so those concepts are starting to be applied in the video market. Agencies are creating trading desks because they see an opportunity to build expertise around a totally different form of media buying. The skill set is completely different. The traditional model of media buying focused on negotiation, on buying cloud, on doing a lot of things really manually, on the phone, on sending emails and faxes. The programmatic buying model is much more data-driven, it's much more technical, it requires that you're comfortable using platforms to buy. And so the trading desks are essentially a collection of people that have the skills necessary to be really, really successful in programmatic buying. So it's essentially the agencies taking control of the buying process in this new world of programmatic buying. The more traditional model of buying broad-based media relied on ad networks. And ad networks essentially played that intermediary role between dozens or hundreds or thousands of publishers and the buyer that wanted access to that inventory or those audiences. So essentially the ad network would package up those audiences or that inventory and sell it in a packaged way to the buyer. The exchange or programmatic buying model, when you look at something like real-time bidding, what that does is it allows the buyer to make moment-to-moment impression-level buying decisions in a way that was never possible before. So the benefit of programmatic buying to the buying community is increased transparency, whether that's the price that they're paying for a given impression, whether that's where they're actually running the inventory, where their ad is running, They get increased control. They can actually run the programs themselves. They don't need to rely on a third party like an ad network, where they traditionally have been required to do that. They can log into a platform like a demand-side platform and run the program themselves. And they get granularity in a way that they never did before. They don't need to buy packages of inventory per se. They can buy individual impressions. And those are all benefits that they can bring back to the advertiser. There's an argument to be made for the simple efficiency that comes from cutting out some of the middlemen. And that's not to say there are no middlemen, but some of the middlemen were taking fairly large margins. So there's an argument to be made just for sort of cheapness that comes from doing it more directly. But there's also, I think, an argument to be made for increased efficiency through a more intelligent buying. So it may be that you pay a higher CPM for a given impression, but you do it in a very meaningful way. You do it in a very planned way. So if that is a user that visited your website and didn't convert and you really want to continue the conversation with them, you want to make sure you buy that impression. And that might mean that you pay more, but the impact, in terms of sales or, conversion rate could be so high that it's worth it. So you don't have to buy 1,000 impressions and hope that there are 2 or 3 good ones in there. You can buy the 2 or 3 good ones, even if you pay more for them. I don't think that we're going to go back to a world where everything is done over the phone, where things are sold in packaged ways in the way that we've seen them in the past. I think that we will see programmatic buying become increasingly the norm in the buying community. I don't think that that has to mean that everything is bought through an ad exchange per se. I think what it can mean is buying in general just becomes more automated, where technologies are being used to make real-time decisions, even if that is on a guaranteed program. So what I suspect will happen is you'll start to see the buying community bifurcate into a world of programmatic buying specialists and custom brand experience buyers. Right now, you have buyers sort of trying to do both in a lot of cases and probably not being as good at either as they could be if they could focus. So I think brand experience buyers will really focus on building those really beautiful, rich, bespoke experiences that are maybe multi-platform with individual publishers. Those are very relationship-based buys. And then I think you'll also have, on the other side of the equation, folks that are genuinely experts in buying programmatically. They're comfortable with data, they're comfortable using technology, they don't mind pulling levers, they like looking at spreadsheets, they like making decisions based on math.